All right. Hey, everybody. I'm here with our podcast guest. His name is Arnie. Arnie, welcome on. It's wonderful to have you here.
Thanks,
Um,
Bryn.
how are you doing today?
Great to be here. Yeah, going really well. I actually slept in this morning because yeah, it's the morning over here. I know you're in the evening over
Yeah,
there or
it's
afternoon.
5 p.m.
5 p.m. Right, it's 10 a.m. here. Um, yeah, I've been because I work 9 to 5. I'm sure I'll talk about it later, but usually I wake up at like 5:30 so I can get some time in to do some work on X. And but I decided to sleep in because I actually did a bit of work on X last night, which was bad because it ruined my sleep routine. But also these last few days just has been hectic getting this giveaway sorted and done, which it's done now. So I'm glad to put that behind me and get back into a bit more of a system, if you can even do that on X, to be honest. But yeah, yes, very good. That's a long-winded answer to say yes, I'm good. I feel rejuvenated. I got some great sleep.
That's amazing. So instead of the tell me a bit about yourself question, I really like to dig into people's minds and where they came from. And so, where did you grow up, and how do you think it has impacted your life and your journey to where you are now?
Oh wow. Okay. That's a cool way to introduce um, a person. So, okay. So I grew up here in Melbourne, Australia. For those who don't know, it's down under, and it's one of the main main cities in Australia. We're not just all kangaroos and desert. There are some metropolitan cities such as Melbourne, and I grew up in a little flat with my mum. She was a single mother, and yeah, it was just me and her, and so and like it was like a tiny little flat. It's a suburb called Dandenong. It I think it literally is what it sounds like. It's a very scrappy little suburb. A lot of lower socioeconomic people kind of live in that area back then, probably a little bit still to today. And yeah, it was just me and her growing up. And a lot of my values and who I am today is probably from her, because she's a very hardworking person, uh, very kind to all people, very welcoming, super extroverted, just caring in general. So that's how I like to lead my life as well.
That's awesome, man. And I know you 6+ years in management consulting, right?
Yes.
Yes. Are you still doing that full time on top of X?
Yes, that's right. So I still do that in my 9 to 5, but it's quite like so the company I work for, it's not traditional management consulting. People think management consulting is like McKinsey, strategy, working super crazy hours doing M&A. We're not like that. So my company is in management consulting to transform cultures for big organizations. So we help big organizations make work experience a lot better for people, but at the same time help them achieve a lot more, because it's been how many years since the Industrial Revolution, and we haven't changed much since then. But obviously, work has shifted a lot. So I actually, unlike others, I actually really like my job, to be honest. But the reason why I build on X is because, well, I think there's a lot better potential for uh, to make a lot more money that way. I'm not saying I want to be rich. I just want to be able to, um, uh, well, I want to retire my wife and her parents. That's kind of the main goal. But at the same time, I just really love it as well. And it's being able to do something you love, but at the same time, like not having to work ridiculous hours. And anyway, I can go to a whole origin story of how I got into this whole thing. But yeah, that's in essence what I do. And yes, I build on X on top of that.
That's amazing. I mean, ironically, the next question is what really got you into X? Because everyone has
Oh,
the I
yeah.
want to escape this, I want to escape that, but I feel like there's always those underlying values there that no one talks about, you know. And I
Yeah.
love the story about how you really want to help your wife and her family. And so, tell me a little bit about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, for sure, well, I obviously, how I even discovered it in the first place was uh, falling down what I call the Danco rabbit hole, which I think a lot of people can resonate, whether they fell in back in 2022 or 2023. I fell into that probably around October. And even before that, I had been on a big path probably since 2020 during COVID, just in the middle of COVID. I'd already kind of discovered, I kind of broke down a little bit, or I burnt out at that period. COVID, I guess, put some things really into my face around how I need to, how I was living was just not sustainable. And so since then, I'd moved into this self improvement journey, which I think a lot of people do. There's this enlightenment that people experience, and then they start going on that journey, and then they realize, wow, like this is, I've woken up and I've got energy. I feel great. I don't feel sad and depressed. And then you realize, wow, like everyone else is really sad and depressed, or, just living life on autopilot. And so I was in this kind of stage already of changing. And then, yeah, Danko popped up on my YouTube feed, as he does. Start watching, his videos despite trying to ignore it as much as possible. And then you learn about this whole one person business, building a personal brand, and how it's accessible for all people now. It's about scaling your ideas, your mind. And so obviously, if you've thought about things that have changed your life and transformed you, then you then want to help others. And so it became this sort of clear match made in heaven. And yeah, so that's what's brought me here. I started at the start of the year. I actually created an account around New Year's, and then yeah, kicked off from 1st Jan, and kind of helps because then I can go. That's how many days I've been on X now. So yeah.
Wow. So 2 weeks into your journey then is when we met, because I was looking back, digging through everything, and I think
Oh,
like
right.
January 16th you reached out to me. So that's amazing. And regarding Dan Code, do you still consume his content, or is there other titles, courses, or creators that you really jive with and like dig their values and things like that?
Whoa. Okay. I actually don't like consume any Dadco content anymore, funnily enough. Even though he got me into it. So I did his free course. I don't think he puts it on his website anymore. But it's the 7 day, his little 7 day course,
Seven
basically,
day like
about
jump
writing.
starting writing course. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I just did that. And the thing is, I'm not a person that ever gets anything online. I don't read emails, newsletters, nothing. But he brought me to the stage where I was like about to like consider buying his 2 hour writer course. I think that's the one. And I didn't buy it. So just to be clear, but there was a moment where I went, holy shit, like how did he make me do this? Because like I'm not that type of person to do that, like to read newsletters, to get all the way down to this stage. And that's when I realized, oh wow, like I want to learn how to do that. That is super cool. And sorry, that doesn't quite answer your question about consuming Danco content. So that was probably the point where I actually stopped consuming Danco content. I still have his podcast that I sometimes listen to, but I do feel like he pitches a bit more to beginners. Like I think he pitches more to that what he calls that unconscious. Which stage? The stage 2, I think. It's like people who don't realize that they have the problem, or people realize they have a problem but they don't know the solution. So that's, I think he pitches to that audience. So that's why it's like it probably doesn't resonate with me. Whereas I know the solution now, I know the product, so I don't need that information. I need to know what product I need to get to my solution. And so now the content that I consume, it's probably more from newsletters. So I'm really interested in learning how to write newsletters well. So I'm subscribed to quite a few different creators that do newsletters. Um, so like Glenn Wrights, Sebastian Roxar, Audrey Lowe. Uh, who else is there? Eddie Kwan. I really like his newsletters. They're so funny. Who else? I'm sure I'm missing some, but those sort of newsletters. I'm not even a newsletter consumer type guy in the past, but I am today. So yeah, I consume those newsletters, but really just to reverse engineer how they do stuff. And I feel that if you want to improve your content, you really need to consume great content yourself, and that will naturally change your language. And that's I think part of what got me to the point of like, you know, getting such quick results compared to probably people who started at a similar stage as me. And yeah, so that's probably, yeah. And reading books, I think that's the other thing. Like reading books, and I'm in a course, like a one of the courses, actually by Sebastian Roxer. So I try to consume some of that content on his platform too. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. My next question was going to be what was the most eye-opening thing regarding Wi-Fi money, but it sounds like that was just the Danco plethora of wow, like persuasion is a thing, especially in writing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Wow. Okay.
You know,
Give
it's actually quite a coincidence that that happened because I randomly at the library. So I go to the library, and that was largely because I was getting into reading a lot actually from last year, and like I was smashing books, like one book a week, type thing, almost two at some points, and that's also part of what got me here. But I go to the library because of my son. Like I can borrow books for him, and so I love reading with him. He's 1 year old. He's a 1 year old, and he loves reading books, and that's so much fun. I could talk about that for a whole podcast. And but anyway, at the time when Dan Coe started showing up, I happened to pick up the book, the Robert Cialdini book, the Influence, basically the 7 things of persuasion. Yeah, you've got it there. There you go.
that
Influence, the
one.
power of persuasion. I always never get the title right, and I
Such a
blame it on
title.
him
Yeah.
because there's so many jargon words all within that. Like I reckon he could have just done one word or something, but it was an old book, and yeah. So it was like this sort of all those worlds were coming together, and it was random. I wasn't like, I don't know. I didn't just gravitate to that. I think I was watching some other YouTuber, Antonio. I always forget his name, but yeah, there's a YouTuber, and he always talks about books that changed his life and helped to build like $1 million company and that kind of thing. And I think that was one of the books that he had recommended, and so yeah, I picked it up, and that's actually sat with me as principles behind, yeah, a lot of the content that I write.
That's awesome. So, and I know regarding your first giveaway, man, how did that go? Did all of these
Oh,
concepts like help you and guide you through that, or was it just kind of like a whirlwind the whole time?
oh, it was definitely a whirlwind. I feel like I could write a thing about how not to do a giveaway. So everything, like I planned it really well, I think, actually. Like I was like 3 days before the giveaway, everything was locked in, ready to go. And then what screwed me over was I'm so stupid. I have a blue tick, obviously on X,
Yeah.
but I didn't know I was on like the premium plus plan, and I didn't realize that premium is like premium basic, premium, premium, and then there's premium plus, and then premium. I don't know. There's all these different things for it, right? I'm so confused, and then I realized I was paying for like the really high end premium because I didn't know any better at the time. I was like, oh, I should just get the premium one since I'm going to take this seriously. And then I realized, oh, there's a premium basic. So then I went back to premium basic, but I didn't realize I took away my blue tick.
Oh
And
no.
so at that time, my blue tick actually went away. And I think what happens is if your blue tick goes away, it impacts your ability to DM people links. And I'm guessing here because I had so much trouble sending my giveaway to people, to help like support the giveaway. So I could only send like 10 every like 30 minutes to people saying, hey, here's my giveaway. Can you help support me? So I was just like, okay, well, I can't do it. And then I would DM people and go, hey, can you support me? But I couldn't send the link to my post to people because X would block it because I didn't have a blue tick. And and also I couldn't fulfill it. The other thing is I got the auto plug using Tweet Hunter, so the auto DM, sorry. So yeah, so then it does that heavy lifting of sending the giveaway to people, when they interact with your post. I was messing around with there, and I turned on the auto DM on my pinned tweet. And I didn't realize this, but when you do that, I think what happens is it looks through your current pinned tweet and looks at who's interacted with that pinned tweet in the past. So what happened was my giveaway got sent out to everyone who'd interacted with my pinned tweet at the time, which was I think it was like a 500 milestone tweet that I had. So 80 people received my DM, my giveaway, like I think it was about 8 hours before I even released the giveaway. And it was just pushing out to everyone. So all these people kept getting it. And the thing is, it didn't just send out to 80 people, it was sent out to like 15 people at a time. So I didn't know how to stop it. Like it would just send out 15 people. I'd be like, what the frick is going on? And I'd go in and apologize to everyone. I'm like, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to send this. It's like a glitch. And I'd be like, okay, I think that's all done. And then it would just spit out another one, even though I had like already canceled the auto DM feature on the pin tweet. So anyway, 80 people basically received my giveaway without them interacting with my post at all. And, so it was like I was cold DMing people basically, kind of, because, so that was a disaster. And so there was a lot of like recovery from that. I wanted to throw in the towel actually at the time when that was all going on. But fortunately, I don't know why, but I thought, okay, well, how do I recover from this and try to get back? So anyway, long story short, I've already given the long story. The short story though is I'm really happy with how it got. I think it was like 15K impressions. I was shooting for 20, but 15K is still pretty good. And yeah, 130 plus email subs. I think it's still going. I think there's still a few more like receiving it, and about 150 new followers from it as well. So, but the most important thing was all the feedback. Like I had some really great feedback for the post. And I'm still getting feedback. Like I got some this morning when I, looked up some of my DMs. Like some people were like, "Hey, thank you so much for the engagement stuff. I've really learned how to do engagement. It was something I was struggling with." Or people were talking about, "Oh, I didn't understand the niche, or like how to pick a niche and stuff, but you've made it really clear." So yeah, that kind of feedback is just like fuel to like keep going. And so that's where we got with the giveaway. Don't use Tweet Hunter as the message I want to give people.
Don't use Tweet Hunter. What else would you use instead?
I think Hype Fury no one has ever had an issue with Hype Fury. Go and use Hype Fury, I think. Yeah, and also don't remove your blue tick just before you giveaway.
Make it worse for you. Oh no. Yeah, I use Hype Fury. Personally, it's just like a cost thing, but also it's the same software that does the same thing, and evidently better. So I'll stick with Hype Fury.
No, yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think go with Hype Fury. The only reason I think I used Tweet Hunter was because they have a 7-day trial, so I'm gonna cancel the trial. So I don't know why they do that. It's like a loophole. You can just use the trial every time you do a giveaway, and then anyway, we should say that on the podcast.
Oh,
they're gonna change that. But that is a hack. So maybe it will work better for you. Just don't use the pinned tweet as the auto DM, and maybe it will work fine. And then you can do an auto DM for free, so you don't have to pay for doing a giveaway.
I will definitely think about that. So regarding all of that fun stuff, I know this past like 2 weeks-ish preparing this giveaway has thrown you for a whirlwind. On top of that, you balance, a younger kid, 1-year-old, and you balance a wonderful relationship with your wife, I imagine, and a 9 to 5. What does your system look like? Do you only need 2, 3, 4 hours a day, or because everyone likes to overcomplicate it? So what does that look like for you?
So I'll be the first to confess that I definitely spend too much time on X, and it's not just X. Like I probably spend more time outside of X, being on Telegram or like writing. or like doing my emails or building giveaways. Um, so I will tell you straight off the bat, like I haven't got this system all worked out. And truth be told, I think when you're starting out, there's so many things that you need to build whilst learning at the same time, and so it's really really difficult to be able to try to condense all of that into a system. Um, but at the same time, you should develop systems as you start seeing there are things that you can keep doing, like writing content, like that, okay, well, that's something that's always going to happen, so I should develop a system to make that a lot easier and faster. Same as like engagement, like that's something you're always going to do, so develop a system so that it just takes away all of that mental energy of trying to you know like manufacture how to do that. So some of those things like develop systems for, but if you're building something new like a newsletter, like that's going to take time because you need to create welcome sequences, landing page, a form, plugins, connect that all together, do a design for the landing page. Then you got to write the damn thing, and so it's like, and then you got to like push that newsletter out so people do it. So like a lot of that, it's like it's you can't develop a system, like you just need a hustle to get that done. um, in saying that, I do have some sort of a system for me, and I'm glad you mentioned like that relationship with wife and being with my son. It's it's all always a juggle, like it's spinning plates a lot of the time. What works for me is trying to sleep earlier, so having a bit of a sleep routine, so knowing, okay, by 9 o'clock it's time to wind down everything. Start closing down, like stop going on your phone and just get into your night routine. I do journaling every night. I'll talk about that a bit later, but that's probably one of the key reasons why I've been able to get so much done. Um, but yeah, my routine, my night routine is really just like my night routine actually starts from about 4:30, 5 o'clock, when I get the benefit of working from home. So that's why, that I definitely save a lot of time than other people that, have to travel for work, firstly. But because of that, I start my whole closing night routine when I do my workout at night. I try to work out 6 days a week. So I do a workout around 4:30 to 5. And that's when it's like, it's a symbol of time to put the phone, put the work away, and focus on family, focus on cleaning up, chores, and moving into my night routine of just journaling and doing a bit of reading and then going to sleep. Um, because I need to wake up. I wake up at about 5:20, so that's what I've found works for me. I experimented a ton, had this extensive morning routine, and I just felt tired by the time I was done with the morning routine. So that didn't work. I just literally wake up 5:20, brush my teeth, drink some water, and then just work. And so that gives me a window of about 2.5 to 3 hours of just like smashing out work. And then from about 8 o'clock or 7:30, that's when I move into, getting my son ready to go to daycare, get him fed, get him all dressed. It's a whole ordeal. Um, and and then from there, I try to do a little bit like 30 minutes more maybe of X, or just get straight into like getting myself ready and then doing my 9 to 5. Yeah, so that's the routine. I would be lying if I said that that's every day. It's not. What I would say as well is journaling has been so useful in all of this. I was going to write a newsletter about this, actually, that journaling, that routine of having that journaling, that habit of journaling at the end of the day allows me to just review how my day went and realize, oh, I was on my phone way too much. And that's why I'm now writing my journal at like 11:30 p.m., which is 1 hour past what I want to normally sleep. And so you can analyze and go, oh, those are the things that I did wrong, so that next day I know I'm not going to do that again. And you can also reflect on things that you're doing really well. Like you reward yourself when you do that. So it's just kind of, I've found it really helpful to be self-aware, to realize why are you making mistakes? Why did you end up sleeping so late? And then you realize, okay, well, I end up sleeping so late because I was writing that giveaway, or I wrote my email really late because I slacked off early in the morning. Okay, well, why did I slack off early in the morning? Okay, well, it's because I didn't get good sleep the night before. Why did I get good night sleep the night before? You just sort of go down that line, and then you realize, okay, well, the real problem here is not, oh, you need to sleep earlier. It's those steps before that that led you to not sleep earlier. um, do you need to switch off using Telegram at a certain point? Like I've been super active on Telegram, so that's been a thing where I went, okay, I need to stop using Telegram at this time, or I need to turn off notifications, or I need to delete X from my phone. Like Sean Canela, he posted on X, I saw recently, where he said that go follow him. He's a great dude, doing some crazy things. He's a robot, and he wrote on X that one of his biggest hacks or something was deleting X from a phone. And he just wrote, "Don't need to explain." And it was like, yes, I can resonate with that, because that happened to me for a period where I went, I'm using this way too much, so I deleted it from my phone, and it just helped so much. Since then, I've dealt with a lot of those demons since, but yeah, it's yes. Sorry, I've ranted a lot there.
No, I love it. That was amazing. So, journaling, do you set yourself up with prompts every night, or is it kind of just you sit down, what
Okay,
did my
yeah.
day look like today?
I'm so passionate about this. I started journaling since the end of November, and I literally, my only rule with journaling is get something on that journal. That was it. Like that was the only prompt. Like write anything. And that's what helped me build the whole habit. And it works for me a lot better. And when I do it that way. So I experiment with different things every day. Like I go, okay, well, today I'm just going to think about what am I grateful for, and I just write something down. Like just, and then it just spurs into something else. Um, yeah, so I just go freestyle, but have a few questions in the back of my mind of things that I could ask myself. And so those questions there are just things like I said before, reviewing the day. Like what's something how could I have improved the day? How could I have been better? What are who's someone that you can like who's someone that you're thinking of, like just thinking about someone that you want to reach out to or help or something, like it just like I find that really important. Gratitude, like I said before. um, Thinking about relationships, how are you going with those things? Your goals, how are you going with your goals that you've got? um, and then sometimes I just write strategies of like what I think I need to do next, things that are just bothering me. I'm thinking about the strategy for how do I take that next stage in my X growth, and then I just draw out. Like I spent 15 minutes just writing out what I think a strategy could look like, and sometimes it's just content ideas because it's there, and I'm like, okay, I need to write down what content ideas I have. So my thought is, and I actually helped my colleague get into a journaling habit with this advice, which was, don't force yourself to write anything, just force yourself to write something. And like even if it's one letter, and then from there it will flow. And then you just play around with like whatever stuff you want to write, because every day is so different. I think you always have different days, you're in better different moods, so it's just your time to reflect. Everyone's minds are so complex, and yeah, I think you'll get bored if you just keep sticking to the same prompts.
Definitely. Yeah. So, um, in your bio, when we first started talking, you had part of
Mm.
part of your bio was you wanted to be like a future author. But then
Yeah.
you also had I hate writing, or I don't like writing. I'm not necessarily a fan of writing. So tell me a little bit about how journaling has either guided you into writing more, because now I mean you spend most of your time writing. So how has
Yeah.
that guided and like come to fruition in your life?
Yeah. Gee, these are great questions. Yeah, so I used to hate writing actually. But I don't know, I feel like it's a love-hate relationship, because when I look back now, I spent a lot of time writing, especially for my company that I work for. there's a lot of blogs that are written by me. And so I think there was always this innate feeling of wanting to get my ideas out there. And but then I hated writing because I think I was scarred from my English teacher. It just made me feel like I just wasn't natural at it. Maybe it's just my fault. I'm just, just blaming him because I'm not taking responsibility. But yeah, I always had this false mindset of, oh, you just need to be natural at writing. And I just thought writing's not for me then. Like I'm just better at speaking because that's something that I do a lot and communicating in my day job. And I've always gravitated towards that. And I read a book. Someone recommended the book Writing Well by William Zinser. One of the yeah, it's a fundamental book, and I think if anyone wants to become a writer in any way, you have to read that book. And in it, he basically says that the key to writing well is to be a good editor. You need to edit. The best writers edit. That's the secret to great writing. And it just transformed my whole perspective of writing. And once I started doing that, my writing improved so much more. And it just made me really fall in love with it because it was an opportunity for me to get my ideas on paper or on screen and to do it in a way that feels like an art form. So yeah, I really love writing actually. Ever since starting this whole journey, and uh, in terms of that vision of becoming a best-selling author, I've got that as a goal, 2030, that I'd be a published author, a best-selling published author. So I didn't have it in my bio because I personally I don't think it helps necessarily with trying to grow on X and to capture an audience. And I think you can put that sort of stuff as your content strategy instead. Because you got to, the buyer serves a different purpose. So I think that's where a lot of people, slip up on with X. They try to put everything in a buyer, and they don't do anything, and it distracts from what the buyer should really do.
What to you should the bio really do? I've been struggling with my bio like no other. You've seen the hundreds of iterations. So what
So
do you think the bio should do?
look, I think first and foremost, it's probably one of the hardest things to get right to start. I definitely didn't get it right from the start. So you got to forgive yourself for that. But the best thing about being like starting out is that you don't really have an audience. So you can really just play around with it and see what sticks and what works. What I think the bio should do is immediately make someone want to follow you for the value you provide. And things like, saying that I want to be a published author at that point doesn't necessarily tell someone, oh, here's the value I provide. And I think you want to lead with what value you give that person that's reading. I put this in my giveaway and you've read it as well. Like treat your bio like a storefront for what you're selling. You're selling your ideas. You're selling, all your ideas, your content, your personal life. So it kind of needs to sell, and you're not. I know you're not. It's free, but it's not, because people are spending their time. And time is money. So they're needing to buy from your storefront. So for you to do that, you really need to be able to sell your value. And it's easier said than done, but there's a real art behind it, because it involves, we talk about to get people to buy something from you, you need to trigger emotion. Like, people buy from emotion. So how do you trigger buying from emotion? Well, you need to put that in your bio. Don't make it mechanical. It just needs to, when you read it, you feel things and you go, oh yeah, I agree with that idea. Like that's kind of the art behind it. And the only way you get there, I think, is by constantly iterating on the buyer, get help, like share it with people. Don't don't be afraid to ask for feedback from people, especially trusted sources, people that are maybe a step ahead from you. I do think it's nice to get feedback from people who maybe are behind you, or maybe in your, when I say behind, like not at the same stage as you are in terms of your learning and development, or people at the same stage as you. I think that is helpful. But look for people who are really good at it. I think that those people are really, really valuable, because they'll have gone through the pains that you have, and have figured out how to sort of, cross the path that you have. And so if you get feedback there, I think is always going to be really valuable.
Yeah, I love how much you hammer feedback. It's actually really inspired me. Like I go out and ask people all the time now. I was like, what do you think about this? What about that? Take
Yeah.
it like a grain of salt, but it's enjoyable to see what other people have to say, you know?
Oh, yeah. I mean, you get, and this is why like journaling helps too, because journaling is a way of giving yourself feedback, without judgment. We get in our heads way too much, I think. Um, Even, I mean, definitely for myself. And there have been so many times where just getting that perspective from someone just saves you so much time, from all the blind spots we create. Yeah, we're navigating with our primal minds,
Our monkey minds, as they
our
say.
monkey minds, and our monkey minds will develop heuristics behind those questions. So instead of asking the rational question of, is this bio going to be, so take for example, is this bio going to attract people to follow? That's the rational question. But your monkey mind will immediately go towards, does this bio resonate? Is something that I like? Or is this something that, it doesn't go to the rational question. It just goes, is this going to help protect my identity? And it's like, yo, that's not the question here. The question isn't about that. The question is about, is this going to attract followers? Is this a representation of me that, is going to attract followers? And the only way you kind of get that is from someone who doesn't have the monkey mind flickering on, right? They just look at your thing and they'll just tell you, okay, well, this is how I felt about it. And then that's super insightful. And so if anyone thinks that they can, try to do things on their own, like no chance. Anyone who's had any level of success has only gotten there because of people that have helped them along the way, people that have given them feedback, that have told them where they, what they should do differently, what they should double down on. That's how they get there. I actually have a newsletter. Oh, I actually released that newsletter about self-made. But yeah, um, yeah.
That's
So
awesome. Regarding that, where do you plan on taking X? I know you have your one-on-one coaching and everything right now. What is that? The end game? Is there a longer game? Because your new banner says play the long game. So tell me, what's your
yeah, play
long
the long
game?
game. Look, my long game ultimately is to have a personal brand, that is impactful and helpful for people, at scale. And that's a long game. Part of that to get there is you need to build skills to do it, right? You need to build skills so you have authority to be able to speak on this. Plus, by building skills and applying those skills, um, you also apply learnings into a practical part of your life, which I think makes your insights a lot more impactful as well. Hope that all makes sense. So the long game really is to have a personal brand that is going to be impactful and helpful to others. And um, and I if we're talking like just random metrics and stuff, like I do have a 2030 vision of getting to 1 million followers on Twitter. So that's, I know it's a bit crazy, but I think you need crazy goals because that forces you to take crazy action. Um, in terms of short term, so I'm a big believer that you can plan out your milestones of where you want to hit, but you can't really plan out exactly how you're going to get there because this whole landscape changes so much constantly. So you'll know a lot more about what you can do maybe in the next month, But if you try to go beyond that, it becomes a bit trickier. So rather than saying, "Oh, this is the exact roadmap," just come up with things that you think you will try to achieve within those different months. And so if I look closer, I'm a bit clearer as to how that looks like. At the same time, I'm not as well because it's going to be an experiment. I'm building it. I don't know if it works, and that fear of failure obviously will come, and that prevents you from taking action. That's like a separate point. In terms of what I'm planning on doing, I've got a few things tinkering in my mind of what to do. Um, I think there's an element of wanting to do more client work because I'm absolutely loving that client work. It's like I just had my first call with one of my clients, and they gave me amazing feedback, about how like it was super helpful to them, really insightful, and it just really got me really excited, and that's actually what triggered me towards changing my banner and some of my bio, because I realized that I have a real passion to help people get their messages out there, to get they've got something really awesome that they want to share, but they don't know how to do it. And so I know a bit more than probably some out there, or there's definitely a lot of people that don't know. And so I want to help those people do that. And I think the form of doing that is well, there's a lot of different forms to do it. So I'd probably say that, right? So then the goal for me is, okay, well, how can I package that up in different ways to make it accessible for others? So obviously one-on-one coaching is probably the best. It means that there's someone holding you accountable in doing that. So I plan to do more of that within reason, because it does take time. And then you can do sort of group type work as well. Um, then on top of that, I have been thinking about releasing some sort of masterclass, and getting, like just some sort of thing that's low ticket, that's accessible for a lot of people, just so that I can give some help out there. Because I've noticed, especially from the giveaway, like just how much people are struggling with knowing what to do, strategy, all that engagement, everything, all those sort of things. So that was something that I'm thinking. And obviously, digital products, like how do I get more digital products out there, like my giveaway, and more products that I can put out there, so that it helps that person get to the next stage. So so long story short is just packaging up help in many different ways, which allows me to learn, but also therefore helps me also monetize and grow as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. So on top of that, doing all this one-on-one coaching, I imagine you're filled on slots. I know you have a backlist of people that probably are just waiting for you to open up again. But do you plan on staying with your 9 to 5, or because I know you want to retire your wife, and so do you eventually want to fully transition into online, or
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, the goal right now is to do it by end of year. That I'm like, my wife and I don't need to work. In saying that, like my wife wants to work. Like she doesn't. It's just that her job right now is just like 5 days a week. It takes up her whole time with her son, or our son, I should say, not hers, mine. And then for me, I actually really enjoy my work as well. But I'd rather to have the choice to work, for my workplace, rather than be bound to it. So that's kind of the goal. So yeah, have the option to do some work for my company because I really like them, and then but have X as the main staple. Yeah.
that's amazing.
Or yeah, online. The
That's so
main
much fun.
staple.
So off topic, but you bought a guitar. Do you know how to play?
I do know how to play,
Really?
but not very well. So I actually bought that guitar because I'll be leading the band at my church. So that's something I do on Sundays. Sundays are really important as part of like my whole routine of things. But yeah, I'm going to be leading the band. When I say band, it's like a scrappy, we're a small church. It's like 60 odd people, and yeah, it's just So I bought the guitar so that I could start playing there. I can play the guitar, but not super well, and it's literally just like playing chords and singing. You know, that's the whole goal behind it.
So you're a singer, is what I'm saying. That's what I'm hearing.
I am definitely not a. I would label myself as a above average karaoke singer. That's the level I put myself.
Okay.
So I wouldn't be at a performance type level. And fortunately for leading church bands, local church bands, that's probably that's probably above the average requirement to lead a local community church band.
Awesome. That's good to know. Did you regarding how you grew up? Did you grow up religious with your mother?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So that's definitely how I practically grew up in the church. And funnily enough, though, I talked a little bit about my burnout during COVID, and that really just rocked like a lot of my belief systems and all that to the core. So I had to rebuild, not rebuild, but rethink um, religion and my faith. And for a period of time, I stepped away from all of it, and I haven't really shared this much, but I found it again. Yeah, when I sort of built my life back together again. So uh, yeah, so yes, I grew up in it, but I had to completely dismantle it and rebuild it to what I think it should be. Because growing up in like a church institution, I think one of the problems with the Christian faith is, this becomes a whole nother podcast topic, is the church institution. I think the church institution has focused too much on being a church rather than being love. And and uh and I think that, that that's what makes people burn out and disillusioned with the church in society. And it's blocking people from understanding the real um, transformative, life-changing impact one can have through Christianity.
I love that. I really do. I've read a lot of religious texts, and as a gay woman, it's not common to
Right.
have like a faith or a spirituality. A lot
Yeah.
of majority are atheist. I think it just comes down to understanding the text. You know, Jesus is more than a person; it's an energy who's just love. That's all it is. And so I love that you mentioned that. That's beautiful, really.
Well, that's a fantastic, like that's a example, right? It's the church has gone. We need to be church, so that's why we need to have stances, and they don't think from a love perspective first, because that's what built the church was love. So if you are, yeah, about love, then the way you treat people who of of like LGBTQ, that community, or whichever other community, then the way you do that is not, hey, we just detest everything about you. There's a way to do it that is a lot more nuanced and loved, is rooted in love, I
Mhm.
think. And so that's something. So I'm at a church now that I think really embraces that kind of um, you know the kind of thinking and feeling. And yeah, we hope to make people feel welcome and be part of that and realize God's love
That's
for
amazing.
people.
I We'll definitely have to do another podcast on that one. That's always an interesting topic to get into, especially in today's age. Well, I have one more final closer offer, and it's going to be, what is one thought or memory you would like to leave for myself or the audience that's just floating around your brain right
Oh my goodness,
now?
I have so many thoughts. um I guess the thing, like, what's been on my mind is this whole idea of the long game. That's what I updated on my banner. And I think I think that's how people need to change their mindsets of thinking about the long game. So what I mean by that is not so what it isn't is chasing after, short-term results, short-term relationships, short-term impact, because that is going to ultimately cost you in the end. Um, because it's hard work, trying to just keep at things for the long term, because you will get envious of people who are showing, short-term progress like super easily, and it'll make you do like wacky things that just don't help. Um, and so when you believe that actually there's so much out there and there's so much opportunity, and you play that long game, your actions are way more impactful, and that ultimately attracts impactful people. And and when you can attract impactful people to your tribe, then you will reach way further, than those who make these little short-term sprints but damage their brand, damage their relationships. And it takes. I was listening to a masterclass the other day with Atlas. If anyone doesn't know him, check him out on Twitter. He's a real badass, and he basically says that your reputation, your brand, when it's damaged, is almost irrecoverable. And and so I guess the warning for people is to not fall into that trap. And yeah. So yeah,
Wow,
that's where I'm coming from. Yeah.
that's an amazing closer. I mean, there you have it, everybody. Arnie, the man who's blowing up on X over here. Thank you for coming on. I really do appreciate it. But I imagine we'll talk a little bit after this for a little longer. But I appreciate you
Yeah.
so much.
Yeah, for sure. This was so much fun. I'm sorry. I feel like I ranted a lot here and just talked my head off. So, but yeah, thank you so much, Bryn. Appreciate this podcast. This is a lot of fun, and I think you're gonna get some really great guests and some great people on here. And I'm honored to be, yeah, one of the first people on here.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Arnie.
Thank you.